decided he would stay back. He wasn't interested in the darshan. He stayed and listened, and Bhaktivedanta Saraswati noted him in the group. Later, just after that, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati came because we know that there's Braj Mandal in Kartik, and then after that there's, at the time of Makar Sankranti is the Kumbh Mela time. So Bhaktivedanta Saraswati came to Allahabad, and the devotees requested him, you please give Diksha to Abhay Babu. He's very helpful. And when Bhaktivedanta Saraswati saw him, he said, yes, I know him, I've marked him. He hears well. So not only did he give him Diksha, but he gave him double Diksha that day in Allahabad. And then the next year, Prabhupada went again to the Braj Mandal Parikrama, and there he met with his spiritual master in Radhakund. Now, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was performing severe austerities there, and everyone thought that he was going to be speaking on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, being Radhakund, and instead he chose to speak about Ishopanishad there. So Prabhupada was listening, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati confided in Prabhupada that, you know, now we have this big marble temple in Bagh Bazar in Calcutta, and ever since I built this temple, all of my sannyasi disciples, the other disciples, they're just fighting for what room they're going to get. Everyone wanted a room over the Ganga so they would have a nice view and nice breeze. He said, confidentially, I would like to sell all the marble and use that marble to print books. So if you ever get money, you print books. So that was a very direct personal instruction that Prabhupada got. And he decided at that time, because already Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati told him that he wanted Abhay to preach in English, because he was trained at the Scottish Church College. He knew English, he knew Sanskrit, he knew Bengali. So he should preach in English and preach all over the world. So Prabhupada became very determined, despite being a grihasta, to follow his spiritual master's instructions. And with little bit of money that he saved from selling his medicines, he used that to print the first Back to Godhead and Bhagavad Darshan Patrikas in 1944. He would write all the articles, he would get all the paper, do all the printing, and do all the distribution. One-man job. He did everything. And this is the way Prabhupada did all of his work in the beginning. He had no helpers. His family wasn't even interested. He would hold programs in his temple room for the brahmacharis and the devotees from the temple, and his family would be upstairs. They wouldn't take part. They would be drinking tea. So Prabhupada became a little disgusted with his grihasta life, and by the time he was 54, he decided he would take Vanaprast. By that time his sons were old enough. He did everything in a very respectable way. He didn't just abandon his family. He had 5 children, 3 boys, 2 girls. Tried to get his girls married. And then he left and went to live with his godbrothers and began his writing. And he tried to start a temple in Jhansi, where they had Ayurvedic college there, and he was attracting the young students there. Prabhupada always understood, just like we have here, so many young students, young men, that the intelligent class of students, they'll be the ones who can take up Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada made his first disciple there in Jhansi. He was one of the Ayurvedic students, and his name was, does anyone know Prabhupada's first disciple's name? Acharya Prabhakar, yes. So he tried to help Prabhupada in many ways. He was transferred to Bombay, he was transferred to Delhi, in different places. Wherever he went, he would invite Prabhupada to come and begin his preaching work. So Prabhupada, from Jhansi, Prabhupada wanted to make a temple there, but the governor of UP at that time, Governor Munshi, he was also the founder of the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. You've all heard of that? Bharatiya. In those days it was very popular. They had impersonal philosophy from the Vedas. And his wife wanted the same beautiful land for a ladies' group. So Prabhupada lost that opportunity. He came to Mathura here, joined his godbrother, and helped with the publications of the Gaudiya Patrika there and different English, Hindi, and Bengali magazines they were printing. And then Prabhupada decided, I'm getting old now. Prabhupada was already in his late 50s. I have to become more serious about the instruction my spiritual master has given me. So he took sannyas and he began his translation of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He decided that if I'm going to go to the West to preach, I have to have some books to present to people. And he came here to Vrindavan, first to the Vansi Gopal temple, then for 6 years he was in the Radha Damodar temple, simply taking inspiration from the 6 Goswamis, because Prabhupada called the Radha Damodar temple the axis, the center of the spiritual world, because that's where the 6 Goswamis would meet to discuss the Srimad Bhagavatam. Their prasadam room was there, their library was there, and Jiva Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj, they all made their samadhis there, Bhugarva Goswami. Very holy place. So Prabhupada completed the first 3 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam by 1965. He got free passage to America, and instead of going to London, which his godbrothers had chosen to do, he decided to go for what Prabhupada called shoot the rhinoceros. So in India we have the rhinos, right? Rhinoceros. And nobody wants to shoot rhinoceroses, but if you do shoot a rhinoceros, it's a very, very difficult thing to do. So it's an expression. To shoot the rhinoceros means you're trying for something that's practically impossible. And then if you're successful, everyone will be very impressed. So Prabhupada decided that America would be being the wealthiest, the most materially advanced country at that time, not anymore, but then, he should preach there. So he went there. It took him 37 days on a boat to reach America. He had no contacts there, just one family, the Agarwals. He went to live with them for about a month. Thank you. He had the address of one Mayavadi sannyasi in New York. He took shelter of him for a few months, and then he decided, I have to really get serious about spreading Krishna consciousness. So he broke off from Dr. Mishra and his ashram and went to live where all of the young people were living. And that was in New York City, the Lower East Side, where the poor people lived. He lived right amongst the students and the hippies and the young people. And he made a gathering of these young people who were seeking spiritual life. They were seeking in the wrong way because they didn't have proper guidance. They were trying to get mystical experiences through intoxication. I don't know how many of you have tried that, but it was very popular in America at the time. Get you out of the miseries of your life, at least for a few hours, by intoxication. But Prabhupada was offering something much higher than that. Permanent release from the miseries of life. So the young men and women were attracted, and Prabhupada was able to establish in 1966 the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And it was at that time that we all met Prabhupada. We surrendered our lives to him, and we dedicated our lives to helping Prabhupada spread Krishna consciousness. And as each one of his disciples joined, he would send them all over the world to open up temples. So in 1970, after Prabhupada had about 15 temples in America, in Canada, in London, in England, in Paris, his main headquarters he established in Los Angeles. At that time, of course, the main dharma in America is Christianity. And just like we have 5,000 temples here in Vrindavan, in America there are thousands and thousands of churches, all different denominations. Protestants, Catholics, Episcopalians, Lutherans, all different kinds of Christians. Just like here we have so many different types of gurus. Christians are the same way. So there were so many churches, but the people were becoming more and more disinterested in God. So the churches were closing down, and Prabhupada and the devotees were buying the churches and making them into temples. And in Los Angeles, they got a beautiful church, made that into Rukmini Dwarkadish Temple, and made the whole community of hundreds of devotees New Dwarka, with Rukmini Dwarkadish as the predominating deities. So Prabhupada was very happy with the success. The devotees would come from all over the world to Los Angeles to get trained. It was a training center for pujaris, for temple presidents, for treasurers, for making dramas, for cooks. They would all come and they go out again to their different temples. So Prabhupada, wherever he went, he had the same schedule. He would go on a morning walk after translating all night. After Mangalartik, he would go on a morning walk, and then he would come back exactly on time and greet the deities. So as he was standing in front of Rukmini Dwarkadish one day, appreciating their beauty, Dwarkadish began to speak to him. And Prabhupada told this to two of his senior-most disciples, Brahmananda Swami and Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Dwarkadish said, "I want you to go back to India now." And Prabhupada objected. He said, Look, I have such a nice temple here. I'm preaching here in the West. This is what my Guru Maharaj told me to do. I don't want to go back to India. My godbrothers are preaching there. And Dwarkadish told him, "No, but I want you to go back to India. And if you go back to India, I will give you a temple 100 times better than this Los Angeles temple." So unexpectedly, in July of 1970, Prabhupada announces to all the devotees, "I'm going back to India." And nobody could understand. We had all expected that Prabhupada was going to come to New Vrindavan for Janmashtami. We were all going to meet him and be with him for the Janmashtami, a whole week program. And instead he flew to Tokyo. And from Tokyo he flew to Calcutta. And everyone was so surprised. Why did Prabhupada leave us like that? No one could understand. So then when Prabhupada reached Calcutta, he thought, well, maybe this temple that Krishna wants should be in Mayapur. So he sent his devotees to Mayapur to buy land there. And after a few weeks they came back. They had purchased some land. And then he came to, because he was traveling for 1 year with about 40 disciples. It was what Prabhupada called the World Sankirtan Party. He went to about 20 different cities all over India. Indore, Gorakhpur, Surat, Ahmedabad, Bombay, Delhi, everywhere. But he didn't go to Vrindavan. He was taking them for preaching. Madras, Hyderabad, Calcutta. Finally, in November of 1971, he told the devotees, I'm going to take you to Vrindavan now. And they were so excited. He had sent Guru Das. Guru Das was the husband of Jamuna. Everyone's heard of Jamuna. So Guru Das was known as the husband of Jamuna. He's a very great devotee. He's still alive. He comes here. He wrote a wonderful book, and we have it in our bookshop. And The Wit and Wisdom of Srila Prabhupada. So he sent Guru Das here first, and he told Guru Das, I want you to get land or get a temple for us. Because Prabhupada's plan was, and he had this plan from the time he was at 26 2nd Avenue, he called it the Sri Rupanuga Vidyapit. He wanted to establish a center of education at the Radha Damodar temple to bring all of his foreign disciples so that they could learn in Vrindavan the Vaishnav culture. So Guru Das came here first in 1970, and if you ever go to, everyone's gone to Keshigat? Yes. In Keshigat there's a big palace there. It's called the Lakshmi Rani Kunj Palace. That big, big building there. So Guru Das was trying to get that building. It belonged to the Maharaj of Bharatpur. And the Maharaj of Bharatpur was interested. He thought that because the Maharajas had lost all of their money, lost all their property, he thought that he could get a good price from these foreign devotees. But that fell through. And then Prabhupada came. He came to his rooms at the Radha Damodar temple. The devotees stayed at the Lakshmi Rani Kunj temple, but Prabhupada had not been able to get land or a temple yet in Vrindavan. So when he brought his disciples, he got a grand welcome from the mayor of Vrindavan. They had in town hall, the Nagar Palika, wonderful reception for Prabhupada, and all of the most influential Goswamis and merchants. They welcomed Prabhupada and the disciples. And Prabhupada was asking, where, excuse me, is there anywhere we can build a temple? And just across the street from Radha Damodar temple, you have Loy Bazaar, and you have the road where the Radha Damodar temple is. And in that area behind Loy Bazaar is called Govindabad. And that's where all the wealthy people lived in Vrindavan. All the merchants who have their shops in Loy Bazaar, they all lived in there. So when Prabhupada would hold his programs at Radha Damodar, some of these wealthy people, they would come and hear Prabhupada's lectures. And one of them, his name was Kashi Prasad Saraf, Marwari, very well established. They had a beautiful home in Govindabad, and they had land in Guwahati, in Calcutta, in Vrindavan, everywhere. And when he heard that Prabhupada was looking for land, he told Prabhupada that, yes, I have some land here in Vrindavan, but it's outside of the town. And Prabhupada became very interested because the town, we know, it's so congested in Vrindavan town. Everything is pressed against the Jamuna River. He said, well, can we go see your land? So Kashi Prasad, he arranged a car. He brought Prabhupada out here. Now we have a 4-lane highway, this road going. In those days, it was one little dirt road about 6 feet wide. And it was where all the people used to take their constitutionals in the morning. They would take their morning walks. But there were no cars. There were 2 cars in Vrindavan at the time. No scooters. They didn't exist. And the only transportation between Chatikara and Vrindavan were tangas. So the tangas would go back and forth, and the sabjiwalas would come on their bicycles on this little road. So Prabhupada, he came here with Kashi Prasad and saw the land, and he liked it very much. And Kashi Prasad said to him, yes, but it's very far from the town. How are you going to get people to come out here to a temple? Prabhupada said, no, this is Raman Reti. This is the place where Krishna Balaram used to herd the cows. I like this land very much because I want to make a Krishna Balaram temple. So can I purchase the land from you? Would you like to donate the land? So being a Marwari, he was very astute. He told Prabhupada, well, actually, this land is in my wife's name. And my wife is in Guwahati now. When she comes, we can discuss it. So his wife's name was Gita Devi Sharaf. And when she came in March of the next year, it was 1972, she already knew Srila Prabhupada because she would see him in Vrindavan. She was very impressed by Srila Prabhupada. And she agreed that, yes, it would be very nice if you can make a temple there. But there's one problem. There are other sadhus who have been asking me for this land. And I don't know who to give this land to. Whether I should give it to you, whether I should give it to Shamama, all these different sadhus, they wanted the land too. So Prabhupada, at the time he was out of the country, he was traveling and preaching, and the temple president at that time, his name was Kiradakshai Vishnu. He was, he had joined in London. He was Indian. He came back by Prabhupada's request to start the Bhagavad Darshan Patrika here in Hindi. So he went to see Gita Devi Sharaf on Prabhupada's behalf. And Gita Devi, very affectionately, she said, I want to give the land, but I don't know, these people will become so angry with me. So Gita Devi, she had no children, and she had in her house, she worshipped Radha Kunja Bihari, beautiful deities, Radha Kunja Bihari. And she had 24-hour kirtan, Akhanda kirtan going in her house for 40 years. The old Bengali ladies would come in batches, 24 hours a day chanting. So she said, I can't make the decision, so I will let my Radha Kunja Bihari decide who will get the land. So she took 2 pieces of paper and she wrote, huh, on one paper, and she wrote, nahi, on the other paper. She folded them up. She put them, mixed them up at the feet of Kunja Bihari, and she told Kiradakshai that you pick one paper. Whatever Kunja Bihari says, that's what I'll do. So he prayed to Prabhupada, he prayed to Kunja Bihari, he picked the paper. What did the paper say? Yes, right. So she said, all right, the land is yours. Immediately, Prabhupada came. Immediately he came. March 12th. And anybody has ever been to a kachahari to get land? It could take months, it could take years to get the mutation, to pay the tax, the transfer deed, everything. Prabhupada did the whole thing. He didn't go to the kachahari. He brought all the clerks and the judge to Gita Devi Sharaf's house. He brought the whole court there. And he had Jamuna, you know, they have the typists, you have to sit there and get... He had Jamuna handwrite the transfer deed. And everyone right there in Gita Devi Sharaf's house on March 12th, 1972, they signed the deed. On March 13th, Prabhupada came here and had the Bhumi Pujan. He didn't waste any time. On the night of March 13th, Shamama, whose temple was just behind us here, she sent some gundas. They dug up the Ananta Shesh. They desecrated the whole Bhumi Pujan area. And Prabhupada realized then that this is not going to be an easy task, because right in our midst we have people who don't want us to build this temple. So then Prabhupada, he had the devotees come and live on the land. They were living here. There was nothing on the land. There was a tamal tree in the middle of the land, and there was a big bull, Sond. He lived under that tamal tree. And in those days, you won't believe it, there were no buildings here. Each wealthy, like the Dalmias, they had one huge property with one house. The Kadias, they had one. All the wealthy families, they had all this land with one house. They would never come to it. It was just their family property. There were no houses here. There was nothing. It was jungle, really jungle. And the cows used to wander here. It used to really be Radharaman, even when we lived here. It was Raman Reti. So that bull lived there, and he owned that land. And nobody was allowed on that land because he would attack everybody. So the devotees asked Prabhupada, what should we do? We can't even go on the land because of the bull. So Prabhupada said, every day you come from Radha Damodar temple and you have kirtan there. And you have kirtan every day, and the bull will go. And that's exactly what happened. The bull went away, and then they built some mud huts along the, the the public toilets are on the inside part where the new construction is. So there was a wall there that separated our 1 acre from the Kadia's estate. They had a house, house, jungle, everything, with only some servants living in the house. So they built along that wall 3 or 4 rooms for the devotees to live in. They built a kitchen, and immediately they started the construction. They didn't have any architectural plan even, but they had to start building something. So they got an architect from Delhi. He made like a little matchbox type, no windows, no arches, no shikar, nothing, just so they could start. Because if you don't start, then there'll be more agitation. And then at that time, one foreigner came to Bombay, and he was a fashion designer. His name was Hans Kielman. And he met the devotees in Bombay. He was introduced to Prabhupada. When Prabhupada heard that he had some architectural experience in college, he said, you go immediately to Vrindavan and you design a temple for me. And there's a temple here in Vrindavan called the Radha Govindaji temple. You've all seen that? The big Radha Govindaji temple that was broken down by Aurangzeb. There are only 2 stories left. So when that temple got destroyed, behind that temple is the new Radha Govindaji temple. Have you all been there? No, you should go there and see. Because Prabhupada told Hans, you go to that temple, it's just like our temple. It has the temple, it has a big courtyard. He said, I want a temple like that. So Hans sat down here in one of the little mud huts. He started to draw, and he drew a beautiful temple just like what we have here. He drew that temple. He sent it to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada approved it. From that time onwards, the construction started. But construction means you need money, and everything was very socialistic in the 1970s. It was emergency time then. Were any of you born yet in the emergency? Anyone was born? No. So yet Prabhuji was born then, right? So emergency time was very difficult. We were here then. Very difficult. They had big banners. Kam hi puja hai. That work is worship. Everything was turning communist and socialistic. And they had taken over, after the independence, they'd taken over all of the cement, all of the steel. You couldn't get anything because they wanted to build factories and they wanted to build cinema halls in the cities. The two things go together. Why? Because they were pulling the young people out of the villages to come work in the factories in the cities, and it was hell. So they had to have cinema halls so that they could go to the cinema halls when they weren't working. So the government was interested in building factories and cinema halls, and here we were trying to build a temple, and they weren't interested in building temples. So Prabhupada had Guru Das and our temple president in Delhi, Tejas. They made friends with the MPs and the different Indira Gandhi, all of the high ministers, and they were able to get cement and steel consignments from the government. But they came in lorries. So the devotees would have to sit in the lorries to make sure that the lorry-wallahs did not sell off all the cement and steel on the way to Vrindavan. So this is the type of struggles that we had here to build this temple. Not only that, the government was anti-foreigners, naturally, because they had just come out of being a colony. They did not like foreign people at all. And it was very difficult for us to get visas. And Hans, at most they would give us a 3-month visa. Now how can you build a temple on a 3-month visa? So the police would come looking for the devotees. They would especially be looking for Hans, who by that time was initiated. His name was Sorab. And they would have to hide him. The police would come looking for him. They'd hide him in a room. He'd jump out of the window, go to another building, and this cat and mouse went on throughout the whole construction time for 2 years. Somehow or other, the temple was built. Yes. So we had 3 teams. One team was Guru Das and Jamuna, and they were in charge of setting up the deity worship. Deity worship means, well, where were the deities? They had to make the deities. More money they had to collect. Who were they going to collect from? So Prabhupada gave them the responsibility that you are in charge of getting the deities made, getting all the paraphernalia for them, getting the temple ready. Okay, that was one team. Other team was the construction team. Construction team was Saurabh and his assistant Gunarnava. Gunarnava is here. Saurabh left his body in 2015 here in Vrindavan. So they were the construction team. And then we had a collection team. The collection team was headed by Guru Kripa Swami. He's arriving tonight. You will meet him. You'll see him in the next few days. So he had a team of brahmacharis. And they would travel all over and collect donations to build the temple. Not only that, we had the BBT, worldwide BBT, and all of the book distributors in the whole world. They were told that for every book you distribute, that money will go for 1 brick of the Vrindavan temple. So that way, all of the devotees from around the world, they felt that they were helping to build the Vrindavan temple. So it was a huge combined effort of the entire society to build this Vrindavan temple. Now the Sarafs, when they gave the land, they said, we're giving you 1 year to complete this temple. If you don't have it ready in 1 year, we're going to have someone else build the temple. So Prabhupada was pushing and pushing the devotees. That was 1972. 1973 came, temple wasn't ready. So Prabhupada very humbly asked Gita Devi that you give us 1 more year, because we had to get all the money, we had to get the construction materials, 1 more year. So she said, all right, 1974 Janmashtami, temple has to be ready. And Prabhupada was traveling and preaching the whole time. Guru Das was writing to him, yes, temple's going to be ready, everything's fine, devotees are coming, we sent out all the invitations, Prabhupada, you come. Prabhupada was inviting, wherever he went, he invited the devotees. Janmashtami 1974, 300 devotees are here, huge amount of devotees for ISKCON at that time. They had come from all over the world. Prabhupada arrives, he walks in the gate, he looks at the temple, he said, this temple isn't ready. We didn't have the doors on the altar, we didn't have the floor yet, nothing was ready. And he looks at Gurudas and he looks at Saurabh, said, we can't open this temple, the temple's not ready. And he went into great anxiety, Srila Prabhupada. So much anxiety, he got 104-degree fever. He couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep, high fever for 2 weeks. What was he going to do? He was so concerned. He needed this temple to get open. So he called all of his leaders while he was sick. He started 24-hour kirtan all over the world. In every temple, we started the 24-hour kirtan for Srila Prabhupada. And he asked Saurabh that, you tell me honestly, how long will it take to build this temple? Saurabh said, there was no guest house even. The guest house was just a big hole in the ground, nothing. He said, Srila Prabhupada, if we work 24 hours a day, 2 shifts, we can get the temple and the guest house ready in 8 months. So Prabhupada calculated from Janmashtami to Ram Navami is 8 months. So he said, all right, we will have the grand opening on Ram Navami, 1975. Saurabh promised him. So when Prabhupada came back at that time, first Prabhupada went to Mayapur. Prabhupada had begun the Mayapur Vrindavan festival then. And for the first time ever, we had 500 devotees from all over the world come for that festival. From Mayapur, because in between Gaur Purnima and Ram Navami, there's about 20 days, right? So he didn't want all the devotees to come to Vrindavan immediately. So he had a program, big Pando program in Hyderabad. And then from Hyderabad, all the devotees came here to Vrindavan. And this time, the temple was ready. Yes. And then Prabhupada, he decided, because Prabhupada understood that all we really need is the Harinam for the installation. But because it's Vrindavan, we have to satisfy the Goswamis and the residents of Vrindavan. We have to have a very big program. We have to invite the pundits to do the installation, otherwise they'll never accept our temple. So we had a 2-week program here, and you'll hear all about that. You'll be here for the next 3 days. You'll be hearing about all the details of the grand opening, and some of you, hopefully, you can stay longer to hear all of the lectures, because this will probably be the last time that you'll be able to see all of the Srila Prabhupada disciples together. Most Prabhupada disciples have gone back to Godhead already. They've left this world. Those of us who are still here, We're only half here because of health. So our temple president, our first temple president, he's come all the way from England, but he has Parkinson's disease. He's in a wheelchair, and he has dementia. He can't recognize the devotees anymore. So all of you in your youth, you try to get as much devotional service done while you're young and strong, because after 70, which all of us are after, we're all in our 70s and 80s now, you don't have that stamina, either physically or mentally, to do so much devotional service. So in your youth, now while you're all young, strong men, you please assist Srila Prabhupada in spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. You can all travel and preach, dedicate your life to Lord Chaitanya's mission, and help the whole world become Krishna conscious. All right? So thank you very, very much. Please stay as long as you can to hear all of these ancient devotees speak, because it might be the last time you'll ever get to see us all together. Okay, Hare Krishna. Jai. Any questions? All right, so I have to prepare for a class tomorrow and a class the next day. So I beg your forgiveness, all right? I hope to see you all tomorrow at the classes. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna, so let's pay our gratitude to Mataji for such a wonderful inspirational Pastimes for Prabhupada, and his struggles for getting this land and temple constructed. So let's thank Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Grace Daivi Shakti Mataji ki
Jai.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham ki
Jai.
Gautam Mandir.
Hare Bol.